Hey there, culinary explorers. Welcome to another deep dive. And this one is all about making your life in the kitchen a little easier, a little smoother, and a lot more delicious.
That's right. We asked you to send in some articles that have really resonated with you lately when it comes to cooking, and we got a ton of you recommending this one. 15 easy cooking tips and tricks to make your life easier.
And it's a good one. Published just recently on October 21st, 2024. So it's got all the latest and greatest tips and tricks.
Yeah, and this isn't just like a list of random hacks. It really takes you through different aspects of cooking, from the essential tools you need to clever ways to save time and even rescue a dish when you think all hope is lost.
I love that. So today, think of us as your culinary Sherpas, guiding you through this article and unearthing those golden nuggets, the most actionable tips, the aha moments, the things that'll make you say, why didn't I think of that?
Absolutely. It's about giving you that kitchen confidence no matter where you're starting from.
Music to my ears. So let's jump right in. The article kicks off with a section on essential tools. And you know me, I'm always here for a good kitchen gadget.
Okay.
But I think what's so interesting here is that they don't just rattle off a laundry list of every tool under the sun. They actually highlight some unexpected heroes, the ones that even seasoned cooks might overlook.
Right. Like they talk about the humble digital kitchen scale, and I know some people might think, oh, I can just eyeball it. But especially when it comes to baking, precision is key.
Oh, preach. Baking is definitely a science. I've had some pretty epic baking fails trying to eyeball it.
Exactly. With a scale, you eliminate that guesswork. You know you're using the precise amount of flour, sugar, everything. It takes the stress out of it and helps you get consistent results every time.
Okay, I have a confession. I once tried to make macarons without a scale, and let's just say it did not end well. They were flat, they were sticky, it was a
Oh
disaster.
no, the dreaded macaroni, they're notoriously finicky.
They are. Learned my lesson the hard way. So, digital scale, highly recommended. Now, what else caught your eye in the essential tools section?
You know what surprised me? The immersion blender. Now, it might seem like a one-trick pony, but it is shockingly versatile.
Okay, see, now you're speaking my language. I use mine for soups all the time.
Hmm.
Creamy tomato soup, forget about it. But I can see why people might not immediately think of it as a must-have.
Right. But you can do so much with it. Smoothies, creamy soups, you can even make homemade mayonnaise with an immersion blender. Plus, it takes up way less space than a traditional blender and is usually easier on the wallet.
And a million times easier to clean, which is always a win in my book. So we're giving 2 thumbs up to the digital scale and the immersion blender. Having the right tools can really streamline things in the kitchen. But what about those everyday cooking hacks? This article is chock full of them.
Absolutely. The one that really stood out to me was the tip about freezing herbs in olive oil. So simple, but so genius.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites too. It's a game changer for preserving fresh herbs. You just chop them up, put them in an ice cube tray, cover them with olive oil, boom, instant flavor bombs whenever you need them.
Exactly. And it prevents that dreaded freezer burn, so your herbs stay fresh and flavorful. Speaking of flavor, did you see their tip about using a microplane for garlic?
Oh, the microplane. I swear that thing is a kitchen hero.
Right. So much faster and easier than mincing with a knife, and you get this beautifully fine garlic paste that just melts into sauces and marinades. You know what else is great for? Ginger, citrus zest, even hard cheeses.
Okay, seriously, can we just have a moment of appreciation for the mighty microplane? It is so versatile. I use it for zesting lemons, grating Parmesan. It's a must-have.
It really is one of those tools you didn't know you needed until you have it. And speaking of making life easier in the kitchen, let's talk time-saving tips. Because, let's be real, we're all busy, and sometimes getting a homemade meal on the table feels like a Herculean effort.
Tell me about it. Between work, family, life in general, who has time for elaborate cooking every single night? Not me.
Right, and I think that's where this article really shines. It's not about unrealistic expectations or spending hours in the kitchen. It's about smart strategies that fit into our real lives. Like they have a whole section on meal prepping.
Okay, see, I have a confession. Meal prep always seemed like one of those things that other people do, you know? Like those perfectly organized people on Instagram with their matching containers and color-coded ingredients.
I know, right? It can feel a little intimidating, but this article breaks it down into really manageable tips. Like they go beyond the typical chop all your veggies on Sunday advice
Mm.
and talk about batch cooking flavor bases, things like roasted garlic paste or a ginger scallion oil that you can just add to dishes throughout the week.
Okay, now that's smart. It's like
Yeah.
having your own little flavor shortcuts ready to go. And get behind that.
Okay.
It's like having a head start on flavor.
Exactly. And it saves you so much time and effort during the week, No more mincing garlic every time you want to saute some veggies.
I'm sold. So we've got meal prep, batch cooking. What else did they cover in the time-saving department?
Well, they actually dedicate a whole section to cooking for one, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, that's so important. It's easy to fall into a rut of just making simple meals or ordering takeout when it's just you.
Right. But the article really reframes cooking for one as an act of self-care, not a chore.
I love that. Because it shouldn't feel like a burden to nourish yourself, right?
Exactly. It's about embracing the freedom to experiment with new flavors, try smaller portions, just enjoy the process without the pressure of pleasing a crowd. And on a practical level, they suggest investing in some smaller appliances, things like a mini slow cooker or an air fryer, perfect for single serving.
Oh, I love my air fryer. It's a game changer, especially in the summer when you don't want to heat up the whole kitchen.
Totally. Plus, using those smaller appliances can help you avoid food waste, which is another bonus. They also recommend embracing versatile ingredients like eggs, spinach, tomatoes, those workhorse ingredients that can be used in countless ways.
Okay, all of this is speaking to my budget-conscious soul, too. Speaking of budgets, we have to talk about the article's advice on budget-friendly cooking. Because, let's be honest, food costs are no joke these days.
No kidding. It feels like grocery prices just keep going up and up. But this article is like a treasure trove of money-saving tips.
Right. It really does feel like its own separate deep dive. Like, we could spend a whole episode just on that.
Totally. But if we had to pick one key takeaway, it would be the emphasis on buying in bulk.
It's a classic for a reason. Stocking up on staples like rice, beans, pasta when they're on sale, such a good way to save money. I do that all the time. I think what often gets overlooked, though, is the storage aspect of it.
Oh, 100%. Because it's one thing to buy those giant bags of grains and beans, but if you don't store them properly, you end up with pantry moths, stale ingredients, and ultimately food waste, which defeats the entire purpose of trying to be budget conscious.
Totally. So good storage is key.
Yeah.
The article had some great tips on that, like storing nuts and seeds in the freezer to prevent them from going rancid.
Such a good tip. Those are the kinds of things that make a big difference in the long run.
Speaking of things that make a big difference for better or for worse,
Mm-hmm.
can we talk about avoiding those common cooking mistakes?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've all been there, right? Like, remember that time I tried to make homemade caramel?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, it was bad. I had this vision of this beautiful golden caramel sauce, drizzled over everything, ice cream, apples, you name it.
The dream.
The dream.
Yeah.
And it was not the dream. It turned into this solid, crystallized mass. Like, you could have used it to build a gingerbread house.
Oh, caramel. So much potential for disaster. But you know what? It happens. Even the most experienced cooks have those kitchen mishaps. That's how we learn, right?
So true. That's why I love that this article has a whole section on avoiding common cooking mistakes. Because, let's be honest, we've all been there. It makes you feel less alone, right?
100%. We've all oversalted a dish, overcooked the chicken, you name it. But the important thing is to have those strategies in place to either fix it or, even better, avoid it altogether.
Exactly. Like, how many times have you accidentally oversalted something? It happens to all of us.
Oh, countless times. But this article had a great tip. A splash of vinegar or a squeeze of lemon juice can sometimes work wonders to balance out that saltiness.
It's true. It's like a little reset button for your taste buds.
Right. A touch of acidity can sometimes make all the difference.
It's like magic. Or, another common one, you overcook the meat, it happens. But the article suggests slicing it thinly and then serving it with a flavorful sauce or gravy. Adds back moisture, disguises any dryness genius.
Such a good tip. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best,
Totally. It's all about adapting and making those little tweaks that can elevate a dish. And sometimes, honestly, those little mistakes, they lead to the best discoveries.
Absolutely. That's how so many iconic dishes were probably invented. Someone messed up and thought, hey, wait a minute, this is actually pretty good.
Exactly. You never know. So to our listeners out there, don't be afraid to experiment in the kitchen. Don't be afraid to make mistakes because that's how we learn and grow, right?
100%. Embrace the process, have fun, and don't be afraid to get a little messy.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, expert speaker, this has been another fantastic deep dive. I feel like every time we do this, I learn so much, and I always get so inspired to get back in the kitchen.
Me too. It's always a pleasure chatting all things food with you.
Likewise. And to all of you listening, we hope you found this deep dive helpful and maybe even a little inspiring. Remember, cooking doesn't have to be complicated or intimidating. It's about finding what works for you, experimenting, having fun, and enjoying the delicious results.
Hear, hear.
And on that note, we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the world of food.